In this video, traders, we're going to look at taking delivery of commodities when you've traded them on the futures exchange. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. So when you buy a futures contract, many of them, when they expire, you're expected to take delivery of those futures, of that actual product that you've traded the futures on. So for example, if you decided to buy a futures contract in soybeans, you may well be expected to take delivery of those soybeans. After all, that is what a futures contract is. It is the right to buy a certain quantity of that commodity at a certain price at some time in the future. And the counterparty to your deal, to your trade, has to deliver that specific quantity of that commodity at that price at a specific time in the future. It's an arrangement between two parties. Now, most of the time, guys, speculators like you and I, we don't want delivery of the contract, right? We are just think, oh, crude oil's going up. I don't want loads of crude oil turning up on my doorstep. You get the point. So most of us close before the futures contract expires, and many brokerage accounts will automatically do that for us unless we've called up and said, hey, we're actually a consumer of crude oil or a consumer of this commodity and we'd like to take delivery. We're doing it for this. And they'll probably do some more due diligence on you to make sure that you actually know what you're doing there. But that's the whole point of it. So what actually happens if we are a producer, we are a consumer, and we do actually want that commodity, and we've perhaps hedged one end of the scale or the other? So a hedger can be either a producer or a consumer. So if you're a producer, you want to lock in the price that you'll get when you sell what you've produced. If you're a consumer, you want to lock in the price that you'll pay for the actual commodity that you're going to use then to make into something else, whatever that may be, or produce or refine or whatever. You know, there's always some other process that then goes out and spreads out to other people. So hedging is locking in one side or another. So if you've got two people who are willing to do a deal that come to the exchange, and imagine you've got the producer or the farmer and you've got the consumer here, those two are going to do a deal, and then at that certain point in time, the deal is done. What actually happens then? So when a contract nears expiry, the price will converge to the physical market price, the actual price that's being traded for corn or whatever it may be. The price is going to converge to that. And that's the beauty of the futures market. That's how futures are priced, and that's how the whole mechanism works. So when you're buying, you must be ready to accept delivery, and when you're selling, you must be prepared to make delivery of the commodity. Now, the way this works, another reason this works so well, is that it's a standardized quality, quantity, grade, and location. What does that mean? So a standardized quality, meaning the product or the commodity has to have a certain quality to it. You know, you're not going to be buying a massive warehouse full of corn and the quality of the corn's awful, the quality of the soybeans or whatever it may be. There's going to be a certain quality, and it's going to depend. Obviously, there'll be rules and there'll be regulations of how they measure that. And I'm not a farmer, so I don't know, but there'll probably be some kind of size, there'll be some kind of this or some kind of that. It has to match these criteria to be of a certain quality. There may be different grades, of course, so you might have different qualities or different grades and different aspects. Again, there'll be different rules for that. Quantity, so you've got a specific quantity, like soybeans, 5,000 bushels, crude oil, there's a certain number of barrels depending on how many contracts you've bought. All this kind of stuff. The futures contract will tell you how much weight or how much size or volume of the product that you're trading is. So one contract will equal like 5,000 bushels in the case of soybeans. And the location, so where it's going to be delivered. So there's no point in your trade if you're trading it in Beijing and you're trading against a counterparty in the US. Then you probably don't want to have to argue about where it's going to be delivered. The exchange will say, hey, it's going to be delivered at this specific location. There'll be well-known locations for delivery of those futures contracts. whatever the contract may be, whatever the commodity may be. The exchange also sets the location warehouse for delivery. So there'll be a warehouse, the specific warehouse that says, hey, this is where this commodity is going to be, and this is where you can collect it, and this is where it's going to be. And there's probably going to be obviously a lot more logistical process after the futures contract expires, and they've both said, hey, I will deliver. Yes, I want to take delivery. Okay, exchange says, well, it's going to be in this warehouse, so and so. And there'll be a process that takes place on that, but at least there's an agreement. This is why it works so well and why we have the exchanges, because there's protection there. Of course, just to hold the futures contract, there's that maintenance margin, initial margin, and maintenance margin. But when they finally expire and they do the deal, they want to pay the full price over for the full amount of goods. So that's when the actual proper deal, if you like, is done. It's kind of like, worst analogy warning ever coming up, kind of like eBay, right? You go on eBay and you buy a guitar. Yeah, you get a guitar and you agree a price for it, and you go and meet in a car park somewhere, and the guy pulls his guitar out the boot, you examine it and go, yeah, it's the right quality, and you swap. So rather than you being the person who has to deal with all that, that's where the exchange comes in. It's a centralized point, and they do all the due diligence for you, make sure that you're not going to get screwed out of your money. So the goods and funds are exchanged, and then the buyer may actually decide to leave it in storage. You know, he might leave it in storage and pay a storage fee, or he might just remove it all and take it to his own storage facility. He may, you know, take it in bits and pieces. He has the option to do stuff. Of course, you know, businesses are run differently. There will be flexibility there, of course, at a fee, so that buyers can do what they need to do with that grain. Maybe they're going to hold it there until they fill up a container, it's going to be exported. You get the idea. Not all futures contracts expire with delivery, like feeder cattle, for example. They don't deliver. It's actually just, it expires, and it's just a cash-based settlement. So in other words, the difference between the buy and sell price is settled between the buyer and seller. There's no delivery. So if you want to take delivery of something, you need to make sure that they do take delivery of it, and obviously go through the due diligence process and all the stuff that you may need. But don't worry, guys. Let me just say, make sure you check. I don't know, no one I know has had delivery of anything by accident, but just make sure you check. Most of the big brokerages, if you're going to trade futures, will assume you don't want delivery, unless, I guess, on the application you say, hey, I'm a producer, and etc. But you know, it's interesting to see, because this is exactly what is driving the market. The hedgers and the producers and the consumers aren't the biggest part of it. Speculators generally take up the biggest chunk, but of course, you know, this is all, that is actually the production and the consumption is the supply demand side of it, and that's what moves the market. So don't forget, final reminder, guys, if you're trading some spread bet or CFD or any of these kind of synthetic contracts, derivatives, you don't need to be concerned about taking delivery. It's only for trading the futures on the actual exchange of the commodity that potentially you could take delivery or give delivery. But like I say, it ain't going to happen unless you've ticked some box probably somewhere that says, yep, I would like 1,000 barrels of crude oil poured in through my letterbox next week. All right, guys, take care. See you next one. Bye-bye.